Ubisoft Scalar. Cole, you kind of introduced what this is because you,
Yeah.
you brought this to us, and I thought it was very interesting in terms of what this
So
could be for the future.
so we talked about this. This kind of cloud technology, the streaming tech to improve games,
Hmm.
like not to be confused with streaming games, but to improve the tech behind the game, was introduced first with I think it was Azure, or no, wait, maybe I'm getting that, maybe I'm completely thinking of something else. But Microsoft introduced this with Crackdown 3 several years ago. They had a big stage demonstration about how the physics and like the buildings would actually completely destructible environments, and it was awesome. And all the extra computing wasn't being done on the Xbox; it was being done in the cloud, which allowed for all this destruction and this change in the world and all that. It's because the Xbox can't handle that. But like this kind of technology, so Ubisoft announced that they did like a 2-minute trailer and said they're basically going to start using cloud streaming tech to make physics better, expand the worlds, have changing environments, physics, all this kind of stuff. And I don't. I feel like we need Ben on this. We were talking about this off air, but I don't really know how it works. But I feel like it could be huge. And I feel like this could be one of the biggest things powering like our next generation. Like, and these are the things I get excited about, which I've talked about before. I don't get excited about frame rate and resolution. I get excited about this kind of stuff,
Hmm.
like things that can make AI better or make have changing worlds and like destructible environments and stuff like that. Like, think if you, because what's the reason? Like, I was playing Astrobot the other day, and you know how when you run in the steps and you leave little footprints behind, and you can
Hmm.
only leave like 65, seventy
Mhm.
five footprints behind, then they all start disappearing, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah,
So why do they did they disappear because of memory, right?
Mhm.
Well, so
yeah.
Probably.
if you offload that to the cloud, can't they store, they can use technology like this to keep little things like that. So then that even expands to like knocking down trees, or if you're in like Grand Theft Auto and blowing up cars and stuff like that, if that's stored in the cloud and streamed to your system, then you can imagine all the different changes we can see,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
completely destructible environments and stuff.
So basically, this project is essentially taking off the local hardware, like the limitations of the local
Yeah.
hardware, and putting it like making it streamable, right? Putting that like all on the cloud so that all that data is only on the cloud, right?
Yeah, so they can stream, so you can still play the game, control the game locally, but stream all this back end stuff, like storing like all these, every wall you knock down, storing that data instead of storing it locally and bogging your system down, storing it on the cloud.
Mhm. See, if you told me all of that before something like Xbox Cloud Gaming came out, or any of the multitude of cloud gaming options we have now, like Stadia and all of that, I would have been like, that sounds like online only, and I don't know if we're ready for that. But seeing as how we have so many things like that, and you can literally stream Xbox Game Pass games on your phone, on your tablet, or
Well,
on whatever.
think about it like this: what if it was only games as a service, like Destiny? You could only play online.
Mhm.
So
Hmm.
I think this is implemented in their Assassin's Creed game. I think that's where we're
Mm.
first going to see this, is in that.
Assassin's Creed Infinity.
Yes, I think it's going to be something to do with that, and they're going
Okay.
to unveil this at like whatever. If we even have an E3 this year, is E3 canceled? I can't even remember.
We don't know.
We
I
don't know.
don't. Yeah, that's a good question.
Well,
It hasn't
whatever.
been announced.
We'll we'll,
This
we'll get the
year,
answer to that next week.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think that this is going to be. I think that that's going to be debuted with Assassin's Creed Infinite, and I think it's going to be very impressive.
Mhm.
Now, to play devil's advocate, I think it's a great technology. I think this is one of the things I get excited for, in terms of the progression of video games.
Yeah.
I think it's something like this is very much addressing, points you've made in terms of, yeah, like when you're walking in the sand, why does the footprints disappear?
Hmm.
Like
Like that's
getting
been doing
rid of,
that since the N64 days. That
right.
should
And it,
be over. I feel like.
right. The only thing that I get troubled by is Alfredo said the one thing where it's like, yeah, like the internet, like how does it work with the internet? But even besides that point, when it comes to preserving video games, when they're becoming so reliant on technology of the now, I get worried about how can we possibly preserve video games going forward.
Yeah,
And when you introduce technologies like this, I'm like, this is going to be very cool for the games when they come out. But what happens, like, if somebody wants to return to that game, let's say, like, in the next console generation? You
yeah, and if
know?
those servers are shut down and they're not
Right.
supporting that
Mhm.
cloud system, then it's just going to be gone.
Mhm.
Right. That's right. And I don't trust these companies to be pro-consumer on that front because they failed to do so even now when streaming is not that great.
I feel like that's fair, but at the same time, we have to, if we're going to make that argument, we also have to think about how games are shipped now and are they truly playable without their day one patches, without these huge 20 gigabyte day one patches, even though they're
Oh,
available,
oh,
on
I
CD
agree.
and
Oh yeah, I
stuff.
agree with you on that. But I'm saying this is more
Another
going
step.
towards
Right.
that like apocalypse.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
that's fair.
this is another step in that apocalypse because we're
But
already at the point where this. I will give credit. The Switch still works as a local console.
Yes.
The cartridges are the cartridges, and it contains the whole game. Usually, there are those games that do like it's just a digital code and everything,
Mhm.
but for the most part, you get your Switch game, you put it in, it's the game. When it comes to PlayStation and Xbox, that's not the case anymore.
and you know what though? As much as it sucks, and for old school gamers like us, it's hard pill for us to swallow, but the future is just not going that way. It's
Yep.
going towards a way
Future's
where
cloud.
you're not going to own the game. You're going to have a license to play the game, and
I,
when they shut down those servers, you lose access to it. And if we want to push the boundaries of video games, we just have to accept this because that technology, all these kind of things, like it might give us this awesome, incredible game, destructible environments, and all this stuff, but we have to accept the fact that we can't play it offline. It's going to have to be an online
see,
game.
Mhm.
I disagree from this perspective. If tech, like I get you in terms of technology, like yes, this is a new innovative technology. Doesn't stop the games we played in the past from being really good.
No, I
You
agree.
know, like they can still make games in that fashion.
Mhm.
Like no, there's no arbitrary. It has to be this way. You know, it's just this is
No, but
just
I
the
think that
line
they
that
just
the companies themselves have set.
I think they're just wanting to push the boundaries and
Mhm.
take video games farther, take it to the next level, and do these things that we couldn't do before in games, and it aren't possible on like I'm not going to jump to Hogwarts, but like that the seasons in that game going
Mhm.
from winter and fall that's incredible. And like this is the kind of engines that can push things like that. They could push snow onto a server and have the snow fill the
I'll,
world up and actually accumulate. Like I'm willing to
I'll,
take the sacrifices to have that.
Mhm.
I'll put it like this: it's a solution. I don't think it has to be the solution. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
Yeah.
but we know that it can't be done on the hardware that we have now and the hardware we're going to have in the next 5 to 10 years. It's just not going to be powerful enough to handle that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
This has
Like,
to be done in the cloud if they're going to do this.
I mean, I think both of you guys are hitting the hitting great points. I mean, but I think it's both of what you guys are saying. Like we can have both, and we will have both. I think what we'll see this in really are like you're saying, Cole, like more live service games
Yeah.
where like there's ever changing worlds, MMO types of things, and just live services in general.
Fortnite, Destiny,
but
Yeah,
Creed.
but we'll
I,
still have what Tom's is talking about, like the classic thing where not everyone will need that, and if they don't
mhm.
need it, they won't use it.
Yeah.
My problem is there are probably going to be games that use this that don't need to use it, and that might affect how they are long term.
That's
There have been
fair.
plenty
Yeah.
of games that I've seen where it's like the developers just left this game out to die. You know, and I'm like, I
Mhm.
don't like the idea of adding another thing that makes preserving games even more complicated because it's already like in a horrible state right now. That's my
Yeah,
only draw.
I don't
That's
think
my
it's
only
gonna
drawback with this.
I just really don't think it's gonna get any better as far as preserving games. But, like, do you want us to stay boxed into what these systems can do, or do you want these worlds to be more believable, more destructible, more better AI, and all these different kind of crazy systems that they could do with the cloud? Do you wanna give all that potential up just to have a game that you can play 20 years from now? But the thing is, like, you may not even want to play it 10 or 15 years from now. New games will be coming out just for the sake of preserving it. When who knows, we still can solve this. Like maybe these servers can somehow they will start to keep them on, or like maybe they can offload it to communities. I mean, hey, maybe they could use the blockchain or some kind of technology to keep these things preserved somehow. I don't know, but there could be solutions to them. I'm glad they're pushing the boundaries though. But I mean, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I just don't. I'm just of the always mindset that I do not ever trust these companies to do the thing that's right for the consumer ever.
Which makes
So,
sense because all they really care about is money.
right. So like preserving games is not a benefit to them at all. Like there's no benefit for any company to preserve their games.
Well, that's why we need some kind of there
You
needs to
know,
be some kind of video game preservation movement.
that would require the
And
government.
yes,
Because the movie industry has that. They have the
yeah.
film registry, and the National Archives, where movies get deposited in there.
Why can't the
And
video game industry have that? We're more the video game industry makes 10 times the amount of money that the movie industry makes.
but it's not respected like movies are in the culture of the United States, at least.
One day.
Yeah.
I'm sure one day we will get that.
One day.
Well, I think one day. I hope so. But I think regardless, that's mostly me playing devil's advocate. Besides that, I think this is a great technology, and I think that I cannot wait to see it in action, to see what type of games can support this type of stuff and what the changes that are going to be made to this. I think it's a great thing.
Yeah. Cool.
So I think we're all in agreement. So excellent.